Hello, welcome in. Welcome all to our session on designing STEM programming for summer camp. As these camps are rapidly approaching, we want to help our schools across the country make sure that they have exciting STEM programming planned for those programs. So as we're all coming in and getting settled, please use the chat to tell us a little bit about your camp, the school district, the organization that you're working with to put this camp on, a little bit about your role and your grade level of focus, so we can tailor our conversation today towards those who are here and what will be the most meaningful for you all to help prepare your summer camp programming. So we'll get started in just a moment, but as we are all settling in, please feel free to share a little bit of context about your program, your role in the chat. And while you all are doing that, sharing a little bit about yourselves, I'll introduce myself. My name is Hope Thompson. I am the Senior Manager of Curriculum and Instruction at NextWave. I'm also a former and forever educator myself. I was an elementary science teacher in Baltimore City Public Schools, and I taught in Chicago Public Schools as well. So as we are talking about all different options for implementation and curriculum for a STEM program today, I'll really be coming with an educator's perspective on how we can adapt materials for a summer camp program, but also with that knowledge of what is going to be the most meaningful for students' experiences in the classroom when it comes to STEM and building inquiry and hands-on experiences. As for NextWave, we are a curriculum and instruction provider who believe that the world needs young innovators. So all of our resources that we design are offered in these emerging technologies, things that are on the cutting edge of the STEM space. And we want to design opportunities for students to be not passive users of these technologies and tools, but active creators. How can we help our students to develop skills to use these tools to design, to create, to innovate, to solve problems? Our goal has always been to empower our teachers to prepare students for the future, but more and more as these landscapes are rapidly evolving, these are careers that have arrived today. These are tools that our students live and work with and learn with today. So we have the honor and the obligation and the privilege to prepare our students with the skills to do so effectively and safely and critically in the world that they currently live and learn in. Now, as you're designing your STEM programming, I want us to spend some time on thinking about why STEM is important. Whatever the focus of your summer camp is, whether it is STEM focus, whether it is more of an academic reinforcement, there is value in bringing STEM into that out of school time. For one, of course, we help our students to build skills for the modern world and for future careers. This might mean having a fluency and comfort with some of these technologies, but it also will mean the kinds of skills that transcend specific technologies, things like collaboration, creativity, and communication, critical thinking. Also, are we helping them to build the kinds of computer science skills, programming skills to use and further develop these kinds of technologies? There's also opportunities for students to reinforce engineering and scientific practices, skills that we want our students to have in the science classroom specifically, but that also extend across disciplines. The ability to make scientific critical observations, to track and understand data, to use that data for analysis, for trend prediction, engaging in the engineering and design process of identifying problems or opportunities for growth, and then designing solutions, refining them. And also, STEM provides a great opportunity to enrich our learning in science, ELA, and math outside of STEM as its own discipline. When we become comfortable with these kinds of tools like robotics and drones, hydroponic systems, 3D printers, we start to see the different applications of those tools in other core classroom environments. How can we use an AI chatbot that we've built to show our understanding of characterization from our ELA novel study? How can we use our understanding of drones and drone flight to showcase our understanding of the coordinate plane and understanding 3D spaces. So all of these tools and technologies have their own value in the classroom, but they also present an opportunity for enriching other learning experiences as well. Now, at NextWave STEM, we like to be really specific about what we mean when we say STEM, beyond just thinking science, technology, engineering, and math. STEM itself can become this sort of nebulous goal that we want our students to have access to. As educators, we want to plan, but it can be hard to really identify whether we have met those goals if we're not really specific about what those metrics are. So we think about STEM as being propped up by these three main pillars. The first being the engineering design process, that scientific and engineering practice of identifying problems or asking questions, imagining solutions, and then engaging in this reiterative process of planning, creating, testing, and improving those solutions. Now, this can be done in engineering and design in a physical space and also a digital space. When students are working with a program like a flight plan for a drone or a program that designed a video game for students to play, that's a digital artifact that students are also engaging in the design process to refine, debug, and to improve. It's also not unlike what students may be engaging in art class, where that final product is a little bit more related to their artistic vision than the perfect solution to a problem, like it might be in a design question for engineering. Or in the ELA classroom, it may be more closely related to the drafting process, where students are constantly improving their work until they have a complete essay or response. So that engineering design process does have connections across the different subjects that students may be studying, but it's also something we want to isolate in a STEM program and make sure we protect time for students to practice those skills. That center pillar are the technologies that we think about when we're working with emerging tech and innovations in STEM. Things like drones, 3D printers, hydroponic systems, robots. These have their own value in just building buy-in with our students. Any educator can tell you when there's something really exciting like this in the classroom, you're going to have high engagement. You're going to have students who really want to participate. That has value in and of itself. But also, these technologies help illustrate for students what the outcome of that engineering design process can be. When experts at the top of their game engage in that process of asking questions and designing solutions, these are the kinds of innovations that are possible. And finally, that third pillar are those specific skills that we want our students to be building when they're working with technologies. When we are thinking about computer science and programming, how are we measuring our students' success in those skills? Things like building sequences, understanding the use of more complex commands, engaging in a debugging and testing process with increasing complexity, and having an eye on things like accessibility, usability, and program effectiveness. All of these goals, which may be measured by computer science standards, digital fluency standards, from state to state may vary, but also as educators, we can hold as a framework to measure our programs by, to make sure that we have something that we can hold our students' learning accountable with. So any STEM program that we design, we want to make sure that all three of these pillars are represented. That if we took a snapshot of our students' work at any given moment within a STEM program, they're seeing at least two, if not all three of these pillars represented in their instructional activities. So that's the framework that we use to make sure that our STEM programs are successful and they're measurable in some way, and also align with best practice for what is going to build student buy-in, student interest, long-term interest in careers, exposure to these topics and technologies, so that our STEM instruction is the most impactful for our students. When we're building our STEM programs for a summer camp program in particular, we really want to think about what those learning outcomes are. And in many cases, a summer camp program allows us with the flexibility to follow student interests and to allow some room for student voice while still working through that skill building that we want our students to be developing a body of knowledge around these topics. And in that way, we can allow students to apply these skills to the topics and areas that are most interesting and most that they're most passionate about. So if we think about the skill set of computer science, of programming a basic, even block-based programming for our youngest students, thinking through the sequence and algorithms that they'll be building. That is a skill set that can apply across different media as different vehicles for those skills. We can start with something like robotics. A lot of schools, summer camp programs start with robotics as their first entry into STEM because it's a great way to illustrate for students how the program that we built on our block-based programming software in a digital space can be realized in a physical space when you see that robot then run the program you designed. But it's not the only way to apply those skills. We can use a very similar block-based program to code drone flight. Now we're getting to see how this same set of skills can be applied to a variety of different situations where drone flight is most appropriate. Our students can simulate disaster relief, medical delivery, commercial delivery, journalism and entertainment, climate change response, all of these situations where drones can be used. We are helping our students to practice that application with the same skills we developed in robotics. Or video game design. Students can use, again, same kinds of simple block-based programs to build and play test these custom, personalized, playable video games. So a student who may not have as much interest in robotics or drones may be able to apply those skills to something that has more interest to them, like video games. Or by using these programs to build a really simple chatbot, they're getting a better picture of what kind of AI tools are available to them and what's happening when they interact with them. What are AI tools great for? What are their limitations? How do they work? This same body of knowledge, understanding computer science, algorithms, and programming, helps to for all of our students to see the inner workings of these 4 different applications and also to see themselves in these industries in the future. So once we have an idea of this one set of skills and a body of knowledge that we want our students to have, we can think about how we want to apply them with more of room for student voice, student interest, and where our instruction takes us. A freedom that we may have more in summer that we may not have during the school year. Another thing that we need to think about are just the logistics of that program design. So I saw a couple examples in the chat of what kinds of summer camps we're thinking about. Things that we want to consider are frequency of our STEM sessions. Is this a program that has more of an academic review bend and STEM is going to be a part of the day, but not all of it? Is this a dedicated STEM camp where our full day is going to be dedicated to these skills and practices? Are we going to see students once a week, 5 days a week? How long will our program be happening? We work with a lot of programs that are 5 weeks long or the bulk of the summer. We also work with programs where we're actually thinking more in units of 1 week. Thinking through class size and grade level are obviously going to have an impact on what topics you cover, how you can implement these programs in the classroom, what kind of materials you'll be relying on, which we'll speak a little bit more about later on. How long do you have? What's the duration of that class time? And what space and materials are you currently working in? Are you working in a summer camp within a school where you have access to a makerspace or a library? Or will you be in classrooms? Are you outside of a school system or an existing STEM program where you are having to be a little bit more creative about the use of space? What kind of resources will students have with them? Do they have access to things like tablets and Chromebooks to engage in coding activities, or will we have more of a screen-free approach? We're going to talk about specific versions of each of these, but I'm going to encourage you now either to jot down or think through a few of these specifics for your program design. Whether you are sort of working within an existing camp, an existing summer or school system, summer camp, or whether you are creating and generating more of your own schedules. We're going to look at a couple of examples. So this is an example of a K through 5 program that's going to be a summer camp that is focused on core subject support. So this may be supporting students before they go into a benchmark grade, like third grade or sixth grade, or it may be just open to all students who are going to receive a little bit more support in ELA and math in particular, but we want STEM to be a part of that day. So just as an example, this is an 8 o'clock to 2:30 program for our K through 5 students, starting with a morning meeting and moving into an ELA block. Maybe we have an art or games window, crafts before snack. And then at 10:30 to 11:30, that's where we see the STEM block happen. So this is an example of a 1 hour duration class that students will be seen every day for 5 weeks. So with the NextWave STEM program, that's going to mean we can get through maybe 2 different topics throughout the 5-week program. We can support ELA with particular courses at NextWave STEM that have more of that ELA focus. Something like robotics and AI literacy are courses that NextWave has created with ELA support in mind. So while they're building those computer science skills, foundational programming understanding, they're also getting some additional support in ELA. Or if this is more of a math focus, maybe we can do drones or 3D printing where we get a lot of support in measurement and working to build numeracy. In a 5-week program, you can do an ELA supportive STEM block for the first few weeks and then a math supportive STEM block for the next few weeks. Or if you have the freedom to give a little bit more time to science, something like hydroponics, circuitry, or solar power could be a great way to dedicate that STEM block to practices of scientists and how we can have a little bit more support in specific core science subjects within this reinforcing camp. So this is just one example of more of an academic focus, something that's more holistic for students, but we want to include a little bit of STEM in. Versus something that is STEM focused particularly. So this is a real example of a STEM program that NextWave STEM has built over the years in Dallas. We'll speak more about that in just a moment. But this is a dedicated STEM program. So the STEM activities really play a larger role and take up a larger share of the instructional day. So from 9 to 5, starting with arrivals, welcomes, a team building activity, and then having a morning STEM challenge. So maybe the first week of this program, we take on our STEM classics to give students a lot of practice in the engineering design process. So a morning STEM challenge like a classic egg drop, for example, or building functional bridges. Then a brain break and lunch. And in the afternoon STEM challenge, we have something that really correlates well with our morning STEM challenge. Maybe we're doing something like building towers or buildings, the classic like popsicle sticks or spaghetti and marshmallow towers that can withstand a little bit of a simulated earthquake or can bear weight. So we're thinking through sort of a civic engineering focus for the day. Then taking some time for games, crafts, classic camp activities, and coming back together for a grand finale. This could be a time where we examine our classmates' work. We have a gallery walk, or maybe we introduce additional challenges. We simulate a few more weather events for our bridges, for our towers, or we test out our classmates' work in a new way. Then we can have our snack, bathroom break, wrap up activity where we think through our activities of the day, reflect on some STEM careers before dismissal. So for a STEM camp program like this one, where it's focused heavily on STEM, we'll be able to move through a lot more topics, a lot more STEM activities. In that first week, we can do between 10 and 15 different STEM classic challenges. Week 2, we move on to drones focus. We understand the physics of flight and coding and working with drones. Week 3, we're working with circuitry and building complex circuits to create retro arcade games, carnival games. And then week 4, we can have all of this time dedicated to examining solar power, renewable energy, and bringing together all of our different STEM topics throughout the week to a culminating activity. So hopefully with these kind of two examples, just a few different ways that you can start to visualize what a STEM camp can look like. Maybe you're thinking through what the focus of your programs are. Behind this, the slide we're looking at here has all of NextWave STEM's different curricular offerings. I'm just going to highlight a couple of different versions of our camps and what those activities can look like depending on the focus of your camp. If you're thinking through the makerspace that you have available at your school that you really want to make the focus of your camp and to make the most of during your summer programming, then you might focus on a robotics, a 3D technology, and an innovation collection of courses. So students are building those robotic skills, they're understanding how to use 3D printers in your makerspace, and they're getting a lot of practice in the engineering design process through those innovation courses. Maybe you really want to focus in on computer science. You are designing a computer science camp or a STEM camp that is more elective for students who want to have some of those programming skills in practice. Then I might point you towards our robotics or drones, our AI literacy and game design courses. 4 different ways to apply these same skills or build on them in more specific ways so that students are expressing these skills across video games, across AI tools, drones, and robotics. If, especially in a summer program or for our youngest students, you are thinking on more of a screen-free focus, or if you have limited resources when it comes to student devices, you're working to build a program that isn't going to utilize Chromebooks or tablets, then I would definitely point you towards some of our more unplugged STEM activities and courses, things like our STEM classics, our circuitry, our invention and entrepreneurship courses. Our K through 2 courses get a lot of practice in some of the concepts of technology without having a screen focus. Our robots for the K through 2 level do not have an additional software. Our drones, same thing. And also things like our agricultural science course, even for high schoolers, can have a little bit more of a unplugged, screen-free experience. If you are thinking within a school system who does have access to Chromebooks and iPads, but you don't have access or want to have to acquire additional equipment beyond that, thinking through kinds of activities where students can build these skills without also having drones or 3D printers or robotics, then there's a number of our courses that can be implemented right away without additional equipment. Our game design, our AI courses, our drone simulators, including our Part 107 drone pilot certification course. So over the course of a high school STEM camp, you could implement our Part 107 drone pilot certification and prepare students to sit for the FAA exam. And students could leave that program ready to take that exam and receive their drone pilot license, a credential that is meaningful for them out of the classroom and in their careers as well. So with NextWave STEM's resources, we have 2 major pathways for helping schools meet their STEM summer camp goals. On one end, we have our UTeach, where we give access to our curriculum resources, our professional development, all of our lesson plans, presentations, and activities for schools to implement. So if you have a program that is high volume, you're going to have a lot of students coming through and you're going to have repeated lessons across grade levels or class groups. If you are thinking as an educator who is working on summer camp for the year or on behalf of the educators at your school who are assigned to camp operations for this summer, this is a great way for those individuals to then implement the programming. We also have what we call our We Teach programs, where our educators push into schools and to camps to provide that instruction. This is a great option for any programs who need additional staffing support, who want to have a little bit more STEM expertise and experience in teaching STEM and facilitating these topics. And also the kinds of programs where there is more of that STEAM makerspace or career technology exploration focus, sort of like that version that we looked at that was all day STEM, where multiple hours of the day are dedicated to these topics and a large breadth is going to be covered over a number of weeks. And we want to have a little bit more depth of knowledge there as well. Now, this can be, we teach programs where we work with existing school systems, existing summer camps. And also we have worked with schools and districts where we're doing a little bit more creation of those camp structures. And what that camp will look like is a little bit more part of our program design. So for example, we worked with Dallas College last year to put together our STEM camp program for upper elementary and middle school students through the college. So by being on the college campus, we were able to design a program both full and half day with different STEM challenges and activities over 2 weeks. We had a drones and a STEM classics camp. And this was such a success that this year we are back at Dallas College. Where we actually are extending our program to 3 different sessions, a 3-week and 4-week session extending for a total of 10 weeks over the summer, where we're going to explore drones, STEM classics, solar power, and circuitry. So whether you are thinking with existing structures in place or you need a little bit more support in building and designing that program, NextWave is a great partner for helping understand and think through the specifics of program design when it comes to a STEM-focused camp. If you opt for more of the You Teach version, where your educators, or if you are the STEM summer camp educator, you are going to be providing that instruction, I want to dive into what is available with all of our STEM courses. For any one of the boxes on that STEM chart we just looked at, you are going to get a 15-lesson course at its core, with foundational documents like course guides and scope and sequences to outline the standards alignment, but also fully planned teacher's guides, which follow the 5E lesson format, presentations that students will be following along with, student worksheets and answer keys to help organize and to be accountable for student understanding, and professional development resources. All of this hosted on our online teaching portal. So teachers have access to all of these resources for every one of our lessons. And everything that we provide that is student facing, we have available both in English and in Spanish. So whether you have a dual language program or you are just looking to support students who speak Spanish at home and in the classroom, we have additional resources to help make that easy for you. Our lesson plans are highly, highly supportive. I call them just short of scripted. So one thing that really helps with is if you are a summer camp teacher or you were assigned to summer camp this year and you are looking to implement STEM, but it's not something that you have been able to dedicate a lot of time to in the classroom or out of the classroom to stay on the cutting edge of, you can be really supportive with our lesson plans. They follow the 5E lesson plan, which is the format that is held as the best practice for STEM because it helps build student inquiry and help them include them in their own learning. So it's going to start with an engage to get students thinking about the topic, the tool, the phenomenon, a question, an idea. It may have a video example or have students examine the tool in front of them. Then we'll have an explore section for students to really engage with the topic without a lot of prescription from the educator just yet on how to do so. During this time, they'll start to develop their own questions and ideas about the function of the tool or technology they're working with. Then an explain section to help build knowledge and make sense of what they've just explored. This might be groups coming back together to develop a rule or a definition based on what they found in exploration. Or it may be a time for us to plot data and start to notice any trends that we all discovered in our individual exploration. Or some direct instruction may happen here as well. Elaborate is where students are going to do the bulk of their learning. And this is where we're going to apply what they've made sense of to what they were questioning and exploring in the earlier sections of the lesson. So this might be where students engage in a new challenge or apply their learning to an ongoing project or question that they've asked. And evaluate is when we'll come back together to assess those student outcomes. Now, in these lesson plans that consistently follow this format, that are really highly specific and aligned with our presentations, asking teachers to display this slide, ask these questions, guide student discussions, and are very specific and detailed in the way that they're written. They also include some lesson-specific differentiation. Because we want to make sure you're able to meet the needs of all your students, we just have a couple of ways that you can modify to either give a little bit more support and scaffolding or add a little bit more rigor so that all the students in your camp are able to engage with the content in a meaningful way. And of course, as a bottom line, all of our content is going to align to standards, whether they are computer science, core science, ELA, and math as well, so that you know you're making the most of that instructional time, no matter what your goals are, whether they are STEM focused or whether you have more of an academic core subject reinforcement focus for your summer camp programming. It's very clear and specific about what your skills will be supported during that STEM time, and how you can provide additional opportunities for students to engage with those skills. We also work with schools that have a variety of equipment and resource differences. So if you are currently in possession of a 3D printer that you're not sure how to use, or certain robotics that have been in the closet for a little while, we have a variety of courses that can be done either with whatever device you have, or we have specifically worked with schools to make sure we have content designed around those resources. So our 3D printing pathway, for example, is completely device agnostic. Whatever 3D printers you have, you can do our programming with. We have a drones program for the Telodrone and for the Co-drones. We have robotics for the MBot, for the Code and Go robot mouse that you see here, for a variety of different models. So depending on what you have in your building, you may be able to implement different programs. But if you are looking to provide more resources for your students to have hands-on experiences, we also do sell these equipment kits that correspond directly to our curriculum, and can help put you in contact with those kinds of technologies. All of our professional development is available to educators on our learning management system. So when you log in to see your content, your lesson plans, your presentations, you're also going to find videos, presentations, software and hardware guides, classroom resources to help support implementation in your classroom. We know that educators have a full plate. It's our job to stay on the cutting edge of these technologies to deliver that information to you in a way that is the most meaningful for your classroom instruction. So these PD videos that are self-paced and consistently available to you across your license are going to dive into the background knowledge needed to lead these programs, and also the lesson activities so you know what to expect over the course of your programming. But they also can be self-paced, returned to whenever you need. Additionally, we host a weekly support hour wherein you can jump in on a Wednesday morning or afternoon, depending on your time zone, to speak with a member of our team on the software, on the hardware, instructional questions. If you're looking for a little bit more information on the background knowledge for each of these courses, you can talk through any challenges you may have with a member of our team. And also, you can always submit a support ticket. We can often help provide additional support as needed via email by submitting a ticket so that you have what you need to successfully use the equipment and to successfully implement these course resources. If you're looking for funding to help make this happen, we hear from schools all the time. They'd love to include STEM in their programming, but resources are tight and it's hard to figure out how exactly they can make that happen. We do have resources in the form of federal and commercial grant opportunities on our website that you may qualify for. We want to help get these experiences in the hands of your students and your teachers. And so we want to help connect you with some of those resources. We also provide a template for applications. Again, we understand educators, administrators have plenty to do. So we want to help make that happen by providing some of the language that helps describe our programming, our resources, our impact and outcomes that you can use to make your applications competitive. I want to highlight if you are joining us from Oklahoma, there is an active after school grant right now that would cover up to $2,500 for hands-on STEM experiences for organizations that facilitate FFA. So this is just one example of a grant that we want to help connect our schools and our districts with that could help go towards these kinds of STEM experiences and equipment. I want to give you one more look at our NextWave STEM library. As you can see, our content is comprehensive. Our library includes over 37 courses in robotics, drones, AI literacy, 3D technology, innovation, sustainability, and game design. And we have content for students from K through 12 that is highly supportive, highly engaging. When we work through summer camps in particular, we understand that there are a lot of really specific and often unique to summer camp constraints or concerns that schools and camps and districts may have. And so we want to provide flexibility within our library to make whatever you need to happen for your STEM programming to happen. So whether that means modifying a grade level to work for another grade level or with the resources that you already have in the building, we want to help make that happen. So please reach out if you'd like to talk through any of the constraints or the concerns or challenges or opportunities that your particular program offers. We would love to help imagine a STEM program that meets the needs of your students and of your program with you. We do also provide curriculum samples for every one of those programs that we just looked at. Every one of those squares on our course chart has a curriculum sample available so that you can see the level of detail, how highly supportive, how engaging for students and for educators those resources are. So as an educator myself, I highly recommend you check those out because they really speak for themselves. We are currently offering for those who attended our webinar today a $2,500 access to our curriculum resources, our library, and our professional development for the summer. So you can implement any number of those courses for any number of students and have the PD resources that you need for your educators that are implementing for summer access for just $2,500. So we will work with you to imagine those programs depending on your focus, your resources in the building, the tech or expertise that you currently have. I love nothing more than getting to really think about the specifics of programming and what that design needs to look like. So please use this link here to book a meeting to learn a little bit more and to chat with us about the specifics of your programs. Now, I will stay on for a little bit to answer any questions that you may have about NextWave STEM's resources, our offerings, or our design for programs. So please feel free to drop questions in the chat, come right off of mute to chat through any questions that you may have. I will stick around for a few more minutes, but I'd highly encourage you to use these two links to learn a bit more, and I thank you so much for your time.